For decades, Oliver Hardy was remembered as one half of one of Hollywood's most beloved comedy teams. Alongside Stan Laurel, he helped create films that entertained millions around the world. But behind the laughter, Hardy's personal life was far more complicated than many fans realized. While his public image projected success, friendship, and charm, his private world included hidden struggles, failed relationships, financial pressures, and personal choices that remained largely out of public view for years. How much of Oliver Hardy's life did audiences really know? And what happened behind the scenes when the cameras stopped rolling? This documentary explores the lesser-known side of Hardy's life, revealing a story that was far more complex than the cheerful character audiences saw on screen. Oliver Hardy entered the world on January 18, 1892, in Harlem, Georgia. Born Norvell Hardy, he grew up during a period when America was changing rapidly. His father, a Civil War veteran and lawyer, died when Hardy was still young, leaving his mother to raise the family. His mother's influence became one of the defining forces in his early life. She recognized his natural talent and encouraged his interest in music and performance. Hardy developed a strong singing voice and even studied music as a young man. At one point, it appeared that a musical career might become his future. Instead, another emerging industry captured his attention. As motion pictures began attracting audiences across America, Hardy became fascinated by the new medium. Working at a movie theater exposed him to films on a daily basis. He studied performers, observed audience reactions, and became increasingly interested in what happened behind screen. His large frame and expressive face eventually helped him secure acting opportunities. During the silent film era, those physical characteristics became valuable assets. Producers quickly discovered that Hardy possessed a natural ability to communicate emotion through movement and facial expressions. Throughout the 1910s and early 1920s, he appeared in dozens of films. He was steadily building a reputation as a reliable performer capable of both comedy and dramatic work. Yet, while Hardy genuinely respected Laurel, their personal lives were separate and often quite different. Hardy focused heavily on his own relationships, financial decisions, and social circles outside the comedy team. Like many celebrities of the era, he understood that maintaining a consistent public image was part of the job. The more successful Laurel and Hardy became, the more important that image became. To audiences, Oliver Hardy appeared to be living an ideal life. Fame, financial success, and international admiration seemed to follow him everywhere. Yet behind closed doors, personal challenges were quietly beginning to emerge. And those challenges would soon reveal a side of Hardy that most fans never knew existed. One of the most overlooked aspects of Oliver Hardy's life involves his complicated romantic history. Unlike the cheerful simplicity audiences associated with his screen character, Hardy's personal relationships were often marked by instability and change. Over the course of his life, he married multiple times. Each relationship brought moments of happiness, but also periods of tension and disappointment. Hollywood during the early 20th century operated very differently than it does today. Studios often expected stars to protect their public image at all costs. Personal difficulties were frequently hidden from public view because executives feared negative publicity could damage careers. As a result, much of Hardy's relationship history remained largely unknown to his audience. Those closest to him occasionally witnessed the emotional strain that accompanied these personal challenges. Balancing a demanding career with private obligations was not always easy. Frequent travel, long production schedules, and constant public attention placed enormous pressure on many marriages within Hollywood. Hardy was hardly alone in facing these difficulties, but his public image made the contrast especially striking. On screen, he projected confidence and control. Off-screen, he sometimes struggled with the same emotional uncertainties faced by countless ordinary people. The difference was that his struggles occurred under the shadow of international fame. Biographers have noted that Hardy generally avoided discussing deeply personal matters in public. He preferred privacy and often kept difficult situations away from reporters. This decision helped preserve his image, but also created an incomplete picture of who he really was. The gap between perception and reality continued growing. And while relationship challenges occupied part of Hardy's private life, another issue was quietly becoming impossible to ignore, one that would eventually threaten the stability he had worked so hard to achieve. When people think about Hollywood legends, they often assume wealth followed success automatically. The reality was often far more complicated. Despite his enormous popularity, Oliver Hardy experienced periods of financial uncertainty throughout his career. The entertainment industry of the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s could be unpredictable. Contracts changed. Studios merged or closed. Audience preferences evolved. Even successful performers occasionally found themselves facing economic pressures. For Hardy, fame did not eliminate financial responsibility. Maintaining a celebrity lifestyle came with significant expenses. Homes, travel, social obligations, and personal commitments all required substantial resources. At the same time, the film industry was undergoing dramatic transformations. The arrival of sound films had changed Hollywood once before. Later, changing audience tastes created new challenges. As younger stars emerged and entertainment options expanded, maintaining the same level of earning power became increasingly difficult. Laurel and Hardy continued working, but the golden age of their partnership was gradually fading. While they remained respected and beloved, opportunities were no longer as plentiful as they had been during their peak years. Financial concerns rarely appeared in newspaper headlines. Fans continued seeing polished publicity photos and hearing stories about Hollywood glamour. Few understood the realities many aging performers faced behind the scenes. For Hardy, these pressures added another layer to an already complicated private life. And while money problems created stress, an even more serious challenge was approaching. A challenge that could not be solved through contracts, publicity, or hard work alone. It was a battle taking place within his own body, and it would shape the final years of his life in ways nobody could have anticipated. By the 1950s, Oliver Hardy had spent more than 3 decades entertaining audiences around the world. His films remained popular, his name was instantly recognizable, and his legacy as a comedy pioneer was already secure. Yet behind the scenes, his health was becoming a growing concern. Hardy had struggled with weight issues for much of his adult life. His large frame had become part of his screen identity, but as he grew older, the physical demands on his body increased. Doctors warned him that continuing health problems could have serious consequences. Like many people facing long-term health challenges, Hardy found himself balancing medical advice with the realities of everyday life. Friends later recalled that he made genuine efforts to improve his condition. He worked to lose weight and reportedly succeeded in shedding a significant amount during his later years. The determination he showed reflected a side of his personality that audiences rarely saw. Behind a relaxed smile and comic timing was a man trying to regain control over circumstances that were becoming increasingly difficult. At the same time, public discussion of celebrity health was far less common than it is today. Studios rarely highlighted physical struggles, and many performers preferred to keep such matters private. As a result, millions of fans remained unaware of the seriousness of Hardy's condition. Psychologically, declining health can affect every part of a person's life. It changes routines, limits opportunities, and forces difficult decisions. For someone whose career depended on performance and public appearances, those limitations carried additional emotional weight. Despite these obstacles, Hardy remained connected to his profession and continued looking toward future projects. But the question remained, would his determination be enough to overcome the challenges ahead, or was time beginning to run out for one of Hollywood's most beloved stars? As the mid-1950s approached, Oliver Hardy found himself confronting a reality shared by many aging entertainers. The industry that had once revolved around stars like Laurel and Hardy was changing rapidly. Television was transforming entertainment. New comedic styles were emerging. Audiences were discovering a new generation of performers. Yet Hardy never stopped being identified with the character audiences loved. Behind that familiar public image, however, life had become increasingly difficult. His health continued to decline, limiting his ability to work. Opportunities that might once have seemed routine became physically demanding. The simple act of preparing for performances required greater effort than before. Friends described him as proud of his accomplishments, but frustrated by circumstances beyond his control. For performers, retirement is often complicated. Their identity becomes deeply connected to their work. When illness or age begins limiting that work, the emotional impact can be significant. Hardy had spent decades bringing laughter to others. Now he faced private struggles that could not be solved through talent or determination alone. In 1956, he suffered a stroke that severely affected his health. Additional medical complications followed. Although he continued fighting to recover, the setbacks became increasingly difficult to overcome. Those closest to him witnessed a man confronting enormous physical challenges while maintaining as much dignity as possible. To the public, Oliver Hardy remained a cherished comedy icon. To family and friends, he was also a husband, colleague, and individual facing the realities of aging and illness. The contrast between those two images may be one of the most revealing aspects of his story. And when his life finally came to an end, many people began asking a deeper question. Had the public ever truly known the man behind the famous smile? Oliver Hardy died on August 7th, 1957, at the age of 65. News of his passing prompted tributes from around the world. Fans mourned the loss of a man whose work had provided joy during difficult periods of history, including the Great Depression and World War II. But with time, biographers and historians began examining Hardy's life in greater detail. What emerged was not evidence of a secret identity or sensational hidden scandal. Instead, researchers discovered something perhaps more interesting: a complex human being whose private reality differed significantly from public perception. The phrase double life often suggests deception or mystery. In Hardy's case, it reflects the distance between celebrity image and personal experience. Audiences saw a confident comedian who always seemed in control. The reality included relationship struggles, financial concerns, health challenges, and personal disappointments. This phenomenon is hardly unique to Hardy. Many public figures experience a similar divide. The public consumes carefully presented versions of celebrities, while much of their real lives remain hidden from view. Hardy's story serves as an example of how fame can simplify individuals into characters, often overlooking their complexity. Modern audiences tend to appreciate more complete portraits of historical figures. Rather than diminishing Hardy's achievements, learning about his struggles adds depth to his legacy. His accomplishments become even more impressive when viewed alongside the obstacles he faced. Psychologically, his story reminds viewers that success does not eliminate personal challenges. Wealth, recognition, and admiration cannot protect anyone from health issues, emotional difficulties, or life's uncertainties. And perhaps that realization leads to an even more important question. If Oliver Hardy's life contained so many overlooked dimensions, what does that reveal about the way history remembers its most famous figures? Today, decades after his death, Oliver Hardy remains one of the most influential comedians in film history. His work alongside Stan Laurel continues reaching new audiences through television broadcasts, streaming platforms, film restorations, and online archives. Modern comedians still study Laurel and Hardy's timing, physical comedy, and storytelling techniques. Their influence can be seen in countless performers who followed them. But Hardy's legacy extends beyond comedy. His life offers a valuable lesson about the nature of public identity. Audiences often encounter only fragments of a person's story. Fame creates simplified narratives that can overshadow the complexities of real human experiences. Hardy's journey demonstrates how much can exist beyond the image presented to the world. When viewed through a broader historical lens, his life becomes a story of perseverance. He overcame early hardship, built an extraordinary career, adapted to changing industries, and continued working through personal and physical challenges. Those achievements remain remarkable regardless of the difficulties he faced behind the scenes. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Hardy's story is its universality. While few people achieve international fame, nearly everyone understands the experience of presenting one version of themselves to the world while carrying private struggles that others cannot see. In that sense, Hardy's life resonates far beyond Hollywood. The laughter he created remains timeless. Yet understanding the man behind that laughter provides a richer appreciation of his legacy. Oliver Hardy was not simply a comedy legend. He was a husband, a friend, a performer, a survivor of personal setbacks, and a human being navigating the complexities of life under public scrutiny. And perhaps that is the greatest revelation of all. The real story was never about a hidden secret. It was about the gap between the person the world thought it knew and the person who existed behind the spotlight. For decades, audiences saw Oliver Hardy as a symbol of joy and effortless comedy. But as history reveals, his life contained the same challenges, uncertainties, and personal battles faced by many people. Understanding those realities does not diminish his legacy, it strengthens it. His films continue to make audiences laugh. But his story also reminds us that every public figure has a private side that may never be fully understood. And now that the fuller picture of Oliver Hardy has emerged, one question remains. How many other legends from Hollywood's golden age are still waiting for their complete stories to be told?